Roll call, please.
We need to change this.
Mayor Williams
Absent.
is excused. Councilor Noriakis?
Here.
Councilor Ryan?
Here.
Councilor Sprague?
Here.
Councilor Walke? Here. Councilor Ward?
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't be frightened by the noise. We're changing the venue. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. We have one item, which is the Memorandum of Agreement Building Inspection Program. It shows on our agenda that there isn't an item, so scratch that. So we do, because we do have an item. Does anybody want to pull that?
Council President, I would like to pull that.
Okay. Since we only have one item and it's to be pulled, go ahead.
I'm wondering what the difference is between this agreement and the one that was signed in 2014. Building inspections are done in-house or?
Can't hear. That microphone.
Yeah.
The city has a.
You want to use this microphone? Now it's working.
That sounds like it's live.
The city, no.
Weird.
The city has a.
We may have to move our city attorney.
The city has an agreement with a company known as the Building Department, which is a building inspection services company out of Eugene. We have building official services through them. They also signed this agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else have any comments, questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have two different sections in our agenda for public comment. One is for comments on other than agenda items, and then we will entertain that at this point. If you have something, anyone has something they would like to address the council for that is not an agenda item, feel free to come forward. I get the impression that everybody is here for an agenda item. Okay, we will go on to, and we're going to change the order of business on the agenda a little bit. We will first hear public comment on the ordinance 2015-11, which is the granting of an electric utility franchise with Pacific Corp. So is there anyone who would like to speak to that at this point? Please come forward, state your name.
My name is Alan.
Into the microphone, please. These are very directional mics.
Okay,
so
thank you.
hard.
My name is Alan Meyer, and I'm a regional community manager for Pacific Corp, and I'm filling in for Doris Johnston right now, who just had surgery today, and it went well. So,
Good.
yes. So Pacific Power is one of the lowest cost producers of electricity in the United States, providing customers in the Northwest with safe, dependable electric service for over 100 years. And congratulations on your 50th celebration. You're going to see our trucks and our folks participating in your parade. That's awesome. I live in Staten, but we're planning on being back down here too, because I hear it's a really fun event. So we very much appreciate the opportunity to serve Lincoln City, even before it was Lincoln City. And I am speaking to you tonight because it's time to renew our franchise agreement. Mr. Chandler, Doris Johnson and I have worked on this agreement for a while, and I think, Mr. Chandler, we've kind of come to an agreement, and he's going to present that to you. And I'll be here for questions if needed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chandler.
Yes, the agreement is the same that you have been operating under for the past 10 years. The language has not changed in that, but there are a few points that I would like to make mention to you that are relevant to this. The first is it's a 10-year agreement. It's a non-exclusive agreement. The use of the city has the right to, without cost, to use the poles if we should need to, and then Pacific Power also will relocate poles if requested. Now, I need to make a clarification on that. That is, if it's an overhead pole, they will relocate to another overhead pole. It's not where it would be put underground. That would be at our expense if we were to make that request. Another provision is the city has enjoyed the benefit of the Pacific Corp maintenance presence in the city, and that will continue, and would not be closing that facility without contacting the city, although they do not have plans for that, as I understand. The biggest item that we wanted to discuss with you, and it's on page 7 of the agreement. It is currently left blank for you to determine how you would like to fill that in. As with all utility companies, the city has a franchise fee that it charges for the use of the city's right-of-ways. Currently, that fee is 5% of the gross revenues that are received by Pacific Corp. That brings in approximately $560,000 per year. That's our current budgeted number. In our discussions, one of the things that was mentioned by Pacific Corp is many cities have a franchise fee of 7%. One of the goals that you have established for me to work on is to find a way to improve and increase the funding for road upgrades. This presents an opportunity that might be there for that. As you know, our Public Works Director has estimated that we will need $500,000 per year over the next 20 years to overlay all of the roads in the city under an annual maintenance program. We have averaged just about a little more than $300,000 over the last several years in those maintenance. Each percentage that increase on the franchise fee would bring in approximately $112,000 to the city. So if you are willing to consider, one of the suggestions is that you increase either to 6 or 7% the franchise fee, and then instruct the staff to dedicate those fees towards the upgrading and improvements of the city's roads. That would be the amount above the $560,000 or above 5%. Now, the impact on the bills that our residents would feel from that, I calculated in $50 increments. If a power user the monthly charge is $50, their current franchise fee of 5%, they would pay $2.50. Adding another 2% would increase their monthly bill by $1. For a $100 fee, they're currently paying $5 to the city as part of their franchise fee. An increase of 2% would increase that by $2. $150,000, it would be $7.50. $7.50 is how much they currently pay on their franchise fee, and it would be $3, an additional $3 per month if you raised it by 2%. And if a power user is increasing or is using $200 a month, then their current franchise fee payment would be $10, and the increase of 2% would be $4 per month. So we have left that blank. I would not suggest that you lower it under 5%, but that you would consider raising that and then instructing the staff to dedicate that to road upgrades and improvements. Now, there is one other point that I needed to bring up. I'm still getting a little bit used to the time frames and the timings that are necessary with our procedures, and I underestimated our time in the approval of this and when it would go into effect. I basically underestimated the readings and everything else that was involved in this. Our attorney pointed out to me that if you approved this tonight, you would have about a 2-week period in which the franchise fee would not, or the franchise would not be in place, and that the way that we can move forward is that, and the reason for that is the ordinance takes effect 30 days after its adoption. The franchise expires at the end of this month. The way that we can avoid that happening would be for you to declare an emergency, which this would fit under that, and then it would be effective upon passage. There are three ordinances that are before you tonight. If you want to consider this longer and for a longer period and not adopt it, there is a 6-month extension ordinance that would allow you to just continue with the franchise or continue under our current franchise for 6 months while you complete your deliberations. The second is just simply adopting it. It would go into effect, and you'd have that 2-week period where it wouldn't happen. And the third would be to declare an emergency and then adopt it, and it would become effective upon passage.
Any questions of the council? Well, wait a minute. We need to have public comment, though. If there's nothing else at this point, we can recall you to come back if there's a question that comes up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from people in the audience? I see none. Okay. Council, what are your wishes?
Close the public hearing?
This isn't a public hearing, though. This is just public comment.
Oh, public comment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
I would be willing to go to 10 years with the 7, declare an emergency.
the rest of the council?
With the dedication of that 2% too, for roads.
I'm in favor of it, but I would really like to have some input from the community if we're going to put a finger on them for $1. I know it's not much, but.
Only problem I see is that we'd be facing taking extra time in order to get this established, and we would be without the franchise until we did that.
Well, if we extended it for 6 months.
Well, we could do that.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I agree with Mr. Ward. I think before we raise taxes on everybody who has a power bill, we need to hear from the community, and I don't believe there's been enough time for that to occur. So I wouldn't be willing to pass this ordinance as stated this evening. I would go with the 6 months extension.
I would say that when we did our goals and our priorities, that besides making sure that we're a city that's in the black, that our number one priority was to make sure that we had our streets and roads taken care of for the future. And I think I agree with Mr. Ryan. I think that this is an opportunity to make sure that we can, in fact, keep our streets and roads from deteriorating faster than we can keep up with them.
Well, I would agree with you, Mr. President. I mean, it's a priority for me as well, and we have that opportunity in 6 months to make that change. We're not denying ourselves that opportunity. In addition to waiting for the 6 month, I would ask the finance department to give us an accounting of where the additional transient room tax revenue that we have acquired with the annexation of Rhodes End, where that revenue has gone, in addition to the additional revenue that we have acquired as a result of the Urban Renewal Agency relinquishing 80% of the taxes that they were collecting. So we've got two sources of revenue that we did not have 2 years ago, and I'd like an accounting of where that money has gone from the finance department.
It's in the budget. Accounted for in the budget. The budget that we passed.
That may be, but I would like, before considering passing additional taxes, to relook at that.
Mr. Ripchello?
I just wanted to, I just wanted to point out, no.
Welcome to my corner.
Okay, the amendment, the ordinance adopting the franchise, could increase the fee from 5% to 7%. But the earmarking of the funds for a specific purpose, that's not something that's addressed in the franchise. So that's part of the local budget process. I just want to point out that meeting that goal is not addressed in the franchise. Raising revenue is addressed. If you want to do that now or later, at a later time after you study the impact, that's up to you.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
We move that we, instruct city manager and staff to increase that, or put in 7% in the franchise fee, and the 10-year franchise with 7% and declare an emergency.
Pardon me, Mr. President?
Yes.
I believe we have an ordinance coming up later in the agenda, do we not?
We're changing the order of the agenda. We'll discuss the ordinance right after. In fact, right now, we've moved it up to right under item 2, G2.
Okay.
I announced that at the beginning that we were changing the order.
Pardon me.
No problem. Is there a second to that motion? Yes. Mr. Ripchello?
Just before, at this point, you need to agree on whether or not you're doing option 1, 2, or 3. And after you agree to that, I have to conduct a reading of the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And then if there are changes like putting in 7% instead of 5%, I have to read that. So there are just a couple steps. But first question would be, are we doing option 1, option 2, or option 3? And then after that, I'll do the reading, and then you follow the ordinance adoption process.
Option 3 is the blank.
Option 1 is the ordinance with the regular process with whatever 5 or 7%. Option 3 is the regular ordinance with the emergency clause. Option 2 is the 6-month extension, as is under the current terms.
Okay, Mr. Ryan, what is your motion?
I'll rephrase my motion to pass option 3 for the franchise fee.
And declaring an emergency?
When we get to that.
Yes. Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Motion dies for a second.
Okay.
Is there another motion?
I move that we pass ordinance number 2015-11, ordinance amending ordinance 2005-13, Pacific Core franchise, extending the existing franchise agreement by 6 months to March 27, 2016, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second?
So in other words, we're doing option 2. That's what we're voting.
Correct.
Option 1, 2, or 3.
Correct.
Okay, option 2. I'll second it.
Okay, you mentioned that in your motion that it was 2015-13, is that right? Should be 11.
Amending ordinance 2005-13.
13?
13, amending that ordinance.
Oh, the 05. Okay, I'm with you now. All right. Okay, is there any discussion? Let's have a roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Williams, Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
and Walke.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Would you like me to do the reading at this time and follow through, or you want to do that later?
Please.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2015-11, an ordinance amending ordinance 2005-13, the Pacific Corp franchise, extending the existing franchise agreement by 6 months to March 27th, 2016, and declaring an emergency. Looking for approval of the first reading.
I would so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
and Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I believe at this time we're looking for the declaration of emergency based upon the expiration of the franchise on the 26th of September.
So moved.
Second it.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And for the record, that motion was to declare an emergency based upon the expiration of the franchise agreement on September 26th. And now, this will be the second reading, ordinance number 2015-11, an ordinance amending ordinance 2005-13, the Pacific Corp franchise, extending the existing franchise agreement by 6 months to March 27th, 2016, and declaring an emergency. Ask for approval of second reading and adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
and Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, we're going to be doing the public comment now on ordinance 2015-12, which is the declaring a ban on the sale of recreational marijuana by medical marijuana dispensaries. Yes.
Before you start,
Okay.
where to wedge this in, but here's as good as any. Are we making any progress at all, Mr. Chandler, on having new microphones?
Let me look for the right person.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
if you're at home, you can't hear them either, so.
Yes, we are. We're receiving proposals. We've been working with an audio engineer that would include replacing all of the mics, the mixers, and the wiring. It would also include some additional wiring on the stand for electric and internet or our computer network plug-in. I don't have a date. We hope to have it soon. I think I mentioned this in my staff report to you on Friday, but that's where we are with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't read that. My fault.
It's okay.
All right.
Okay, this is the public comment time on the ordinance on recreational marijuana being dispensed by medical marijuana dispensaries. We have a ton of people here in the audience, and I would ask that we don't have repeats of the same comments, of the same points, because we'll be here all night. We'll limit the discussion by each person to 3 minutes, and if it sounds like we're just repeating over and over again, I'll probably bring the discussion to a halt. So please keep that in mind if you would, and we'll get home sometime tonight. I will take it by the order in which people have signed up. Diana Beard. And please state your name when you sit down and speak directly into the mic.
My name's Diana Beard. I'm a 12-year resident of Lincoln City. I believe you should have all received an email from me on this subject about voting on this ordinance to ban our marijuana dispensaries from selling recreational marijuana beginning October 1st. I believe this move is very wrong for Lincoln City. Oregonians voted last November to legalize recreational marijuana. The OLCC is working on rules for the recreational sale. I actually was on one of the boards for OLCC, and their rules will be out soon with the licensing happening. But in the meantime, the legislature had enough foresight to allow the dispensaries to sell small portions to a person daily. Lincoln City residents already use marijuana. It's legal. I'm not sure the percentage, but I believe if you took a poll, it'd be pretty high. The city is always looking at ways to increase their income, and this is an excellent opportunity to do just that. January 1st, the city would get a percentage of the 20% tax that the county can charge, and then the city can impose their own 3% tax. Why not give the people a legal way to get their marijuana? The whole idea of the vote was to diminish the black market on marijuana sales. By banning the dispensaries from selling it, you are just encouraging people to use the black market to get their marijuana. Marijuana users are not a problem to police or residents. They are calm, mellow people that don't cause a lot of problems. The aggressive and combative people are the meth and heroin users we have in this town. Tourists that come...
Excuse me, we cannot have time for applause each time, so please refrain from the applause. If you want to continue, we will ask you to leave.
Tourists that come to town are going to go to Walport or Newport to get their marijuana and bypass our town. They have already passed and allowed the dispensaries to start operating October 1st. Depot Bay is still in a voting process, and they may pass it too. Why would you want to give up all that revenue? Newport and Depot Bay had public meetings to determine if their residents wanted legal sales in their town. Why did we not have any public meetings? The August 24th meeting was not published very well to allow residents to come and voice their opinion. The dispensaries have rules and regulations in place and are inspected by the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, which is under the Oregon Health Authority. They all have computer systems that can track each person purchasing daily and know if they already got their quarter ounce that day. It seems like a win-win situation for everyone. You're not going to stop the residents from using marijuana as it is legal now. Please consider the residents a legal way to get it and increase the city coffers in the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor Baker. That's okay.
I'm going to stand up if you don't mind.
If you can lean over into the mic.
I'm here to speak on this.
State your name, please.
My name is Victor Baker. I'd like you all to know I have a very, very bad social anxiety problem. So this is very, very important to me. I think it's high time that our governments, city, county, state, and federal, open their eyes to the future and quit leaning on all of these
past negatives that were put in place by the government. Listen to your people. We voted on something, it was passed, and now it's not even recognizable. You guys have all changed it, each and every one of you, and that is not right. That is not the American way. I'm done.
Thank you. I think that's Griff Ford, is that correct?
Griff Ford, 3203 Southwest Highway 101. I'm going to touch on a couple of points that have already been covered, but I'll be real brief. If you as a council decide to block recreational sales of marijuana, we will be more or less advocating black market sales. This seems to be a greater public safety risk than legal sales for a number of reasons. Lack of pesticide testing, back alley Craigslist deals with strangers, and the like. Some people may not like the idea of recreational sales, but let's not forget Lincoln County passed Measure 91, 12,349 to 7,583. The people have spoken. Please do not push locals to resort to the black market and push more of our tourist dollars to Newport. Thank you.
Thank you. Keely Mallet? Did I pronounce that right? That's what I was afraid of. I figured I'd blow it.
Hello, my name is Kelly Millette.
That was pretty close.
Yeah, very close. I'm the owner of Pipe Dreams Dispensary, co-owner, technically. And I'm concerned that there's some misinformation. I just wanted to help enlighten you from a different perspective. There is a law that defines the early start parameters. Senate Bill 460 is about a page and a half. It clearly defines a registered marijuana dispensary can only sell to someone 20 years and older. Only cannabis flower of a 1/4 ounce, seeds or clones to one person per day. At Pipe Dreams, we have a POS system that would track this. It would be very safe and effective. There's also a concern for safety. We have a dozen surveillance cameras, more than a dozen surveillance cameras that record in high-definition color to an off-site location. We have several panic buttons placed throughout the store. We have a small lobby, so a person has to show government issue ID before even entering the dispensary itself. And as far as large amounts of cash on hand, I'm sadly confident that our local grocery stores and restaurants, like Safeway or Kylo's, have far more cash on hand than we do. I also want to remind you that we have hired 3 employees and we plan to hire more. That means that we're supporting children in the community and Lincoln City residents right now. If you do not support this measure, we will be laying people off instead of hiring. I hope that you take this into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Randy Millett. That last name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I know that pretty little gal that just left. Well, my name is Randy Millette, along with my wife. I'm the owner of Pipe Dreams Dispensary. It's good to see all of you again, and some of you for the first time. I'm here today to put a proposal forward, and I'm hoping some of you will back me up on this. My proposal will increase Lincoln City's economic development, give the voters what they voted for, increase public safety, benefit the finances, and be consistent with City Council policy. The proposal, of course, allow medical marijuana dispensaries to sell recreational marijuana beginning October 1st of this year, which is consistent with state law. The voters in Lincoln County voted at 62% for recreational marijuana. Now, I won't bore you with the 12,000 and all that. Griff hit that pretty good. We are second in the state for supportive voting on this. Public safety, it should be a big concern for you guys. It was for me, and you may remember last year, some of you, this would be a debate of the recreational marijuana. the debate's already been had. The voters are well aware of the concerns and the issues, and the voters overwhelmingly supported this. So, say to do anything other than go forward would be standing in the way of what the voters wanted. So, some of you didn't vote for, but your constituents did. So, let's see. I want to give you a little brief insight as a dispensary owner in PRF. I've sent out almost 1,000 samples of marijuana and marijuana products to the labs for testing. Most of those come back pretty well exactly like we want them to. Occasionally, they come back dirty, contaminated, either with pesticides or molds or something like that. One sample came back at 10.2% for organophosphates. As some of you may not know what they even are, but the state allows 0.1 part per million. If it hits that number, it fails. So the state says no to any. This came back at 10.2. They're mostly found in mildicides and that type of thing. At 10.2, when I looked at this stuff, you can't see it, you can't smell it on there. There's no way to know it's an invisible toxin. By law, this is where it gets interesting, guys. I have to give that back to the person who brought it in. I can't sell it. It's not mine. So, and I can't destroy it because by law, the law forced me to give it back. Where do you think that stuff went? The black market years ago was what. That's all there was. That's where anybody went if they wanted. So the good, the bad, the ugly, buyer beware, that's where it was. All the dangers that it involved. Today, the good stuff is found in dispensaries. That's where it should be. Anything not found in a dispensary, if it fails, it hits the streets. The other important thing to touch on here, guys, is that this year is our second year in business. We have to do a background check. And I was sort of surprised this year. It took 2 months for them to check me. I didn't get a parking ticket through the whole year. Nothing. Absolutely good boy, nothing wrong. So at one point I had called our inspector and said, "What's taking so long? I'm the same guy." And she said, "That's just the way it is. They're going to treat it every year as though they've never seen me before. They're going to vet me like they never have, every single year." Now, if you drive by the Old O or wherever else you might find it on a Friday night in the back market, or the black market rather, no such security exists.
You're going to have to wrap it up here.
Good enough. So, in closing, I'd like us to follow what other councils have done, such as Newport and Portland, and I have close ties with Depot Bay. They're going to go forward with it as well, and the reasons are mostly for public safety. There's no benefit to delay, and I would greatly appreciate one of you putting forward a motion to make this a reality so that we can go forward. Thank you.
Stephen Kohlberg.
My name is Stephen Kohlberg. I've lived in Lincoln City for 7 years, a little more if you count living out in Seagrove in those countries. I'm amazed. I'm proud to be an Oregonian. I've been here since 1969 after coming back from Vietnam. I'm 100% disabled. And I mean, not from PTSD only, but Agent Orange. So I know about chemicals. Believe me, if you allow people to sell marijuana in the streets, it's like going back to the early 60s. I'm sure you people remember it. You don't know what you were getting. But back then, most of the time, it was real good because it wasn't stepped on all over the place like the people do on the black market and in the bad things. And one thing I'm very ashamed about this city is how many families, personally, I've seen destroyed by meth and heroin. I have neighbors that I know are big dealers, but nobody cares. Nobody from law enforcement. I've talked to people. Sometimes it goes under the carpet. It's scary. I wonder when everybody's going to start to wake up how terrible that is. And for me personally, Marijuana has been the best thing that has ever happened to my life. I have been a smoker for 50 years, and I've never heard some of the craziness that they say, oh, this will do this and this will do that for marijuana. My lady friend has MS. Marijuana helps her a great deal, too. But you guys keep changing the rules, not you personally. But you guys can, and you can come forward into the 21st century. Why, you guys, you're worried about 10% here, not even that high a number, and you're turning down the tax revenue? Come on, guys. I'd like to buy a home here, but let's get real. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Green?
Either one? Either one is good. I'm finally on government access television. This is great.
Good evening. Can you pull the mic down just a little bit there? Thank you.
Is that good, Roger?
Better.
All right. Good evening. My name is Laura Green, the juggling queen. I've been a Lincoln City resident now for over 3 years. And I would like to focus my remarks tonight. I wrote all of these wonderful jokes and everything for you, but, you know, I'm just going to start with the foundation. There was an article that appeared on July the 15th in our wonderful news guard, and there were two articles that were stacked one on top of the other. Recreational marijuana sales to start October 1st in Lincoln County. And then underneath that, cops brace for impact of new pot use law. So I've been reading through this, and I'd like to just touch on a couple of points. Firstly, the black market point. I would greatly appreciate having the black market eliminated, because if for no other reason, it will alleviate some of the parking problems in the Safeway parking lot. I don't mean to be funny on that either. That was not one of the jokes that I wrote. The joke I wrote was about a joint session between the Visitors Bureau, the Convention Center, the LCC, and anyway. No, seriously, if you want to buy marijuana, you can buy it right out there in the Safeway parking lot anytime. And you are taking a terrible chance. Not only that, any kid can buy it because it's not regulated. Everything said about the black market, I back up. Now, skipping over here about the percentage of people who voted in favor of it, those of you who sit on the council, remember you were sitting in elected positions. I'll let that one go too. Lincoln County Commissioner Bill Hall said we're interested in making a smooth transition so that we can mitigate any community impacts, and I believe that all of us here tonight are interested in that. The cops bracing for a new pot use law. Our city police chief, Keith Killian, he's an Irishman for sure, and you can bet they are going to be wonderfully tough but tender on any problems that we have in this town. Also, his officers underwent training for drug recognition experts. I realize that in this room right now tonight, there are several drug recognition experts. They are worried about not being able to keep up with only having 2 drug recognition experts. They are worried about keeping up with what they see as maybe an influx. I think we should have a new volunteer program to help our officers, because I think a lot of us know how to recognize drugs when they're being used, and ill-used, too. For years and years, Killian said, we've been telling our kids to stay off drugs. This new law is very contradictory to the message we are giving. That message will not change. As a teacher, we continue that message. Stay off of drugs, and while you're at it, stay off of alcohol, high-sugar drinks, stay off the internet, stay off a Tumblr, stay off my couch and your dirty boots. There are a lot of things. So when children say, was it illegal? Refer them to Wikipedia and research it. Oh, I'm being buzzed. I want to say I love this town very much. I support all of our dispensaries who are in the hands of very professional and wonderful people. I encourage the council to vote in favor of this move. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Laura Jokey, is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
You mean I got it right?
You did. So I'm coming up. My name is Laura Jokey, and I'm coming up with something a little bit different.
You're not being recorded.
Okay.
We have to have you into the mic.
I'm here. So I'm Laura Jokey, and I've got something a little bit different for you. I'm the neighbor of the beast. I actually am in the same building as Griffin Renee's dispensary. And so I actually get to experience what it's like to be a neighbor. I also live in the Nell Scott neighborhood. So I walk to work. I'm that little block there where people do drug deals in the bathroom at the public parking. My business is right there, and I'm the one calling the cops saying, hey, that guy's out there with that cell phone again. But anyways, so as owner of Rock Your World, which is one of our top draws here in town from international visitors through TripAdvisor, by the way, I get people from all over the United States going, so hey, I can go over there and, get some, no, not yet. Well, why? Well, because A, October 1st, and B, our city council's still up in the air. Now, you ask me, who are these people who come and ask me this? Well, it's not the scumbag criminal element who already knows how to find it. These are law-abiding citizens who have traveled to Oregon, who are really interested in following the law, so they want to legally obtain something that we've legalized. And so I tell them, well, as long as all the ducks are in order, you'll be able to come back here on October 1st and get your recreational marijuana next door at one of the dispensaries while Oregon figures it out. And you know who these people are is they're retirees. They drive RVs. They buy rocks from me. They're not the people that we're worried about being wastoids. They're going to be happy and hungry and maybe spend some money while they walk around on the beach. These people aren't going to get loaded and drive. They're already trying to follow the rules. So I can assume in good faith that our visitors to our town who want to spend legal money and do law-abiding activities aren't going to go and drive, totally loaded. They can go down to the liquor store and get something, but as far as following other laws, it's really hard. So that's my experience. And also being next to a dispensary, I have to say that the people who come in and out, they're not the criminal element. They're the sick. They're the needy. And now we've got people coming in who have always been law-abiding citizens who want to partake in a law-abiding activity. They're not people I'm nervous about. They're not people who I'm afraid of. And the other thing is that I know the dispensaries have things in place to even keep minors out of them. You know where I want those minors and mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers? In my shop spending money while they're waiting for Dad to go get his smoke. And I think it would be a really great idea to pass as many ordinances as we can that support our community of small businesses and artists. My business, I developed from digging rocks out of the ground and selling them on eBay, and then taking that money from eBay and then buying things in order to make the jewelry and find and mine the rocks that I make. I am the artist you want here. And in order to be here, I have to have revenue. So the more visitor-friendly we can make our city and our community, the better. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Tracy Elliott.
Hi, I'm Tracy Elliott. Yeah, what she said. Anyway, I will not buy it when it comes legal to buy it, whenever you choose to make that happen. But I will tell you that I don't work next to a dispensary, don't live next to one, none of those things. But I can tell you, I work next to a bar where I see people buy it in my parking lot every day. And I have tourists come into my business every day and ask me where to buy this. Tourist money is what keeps most of us employed. So follow the money. And we need that money. We don't need that money to go to Newport or anywhere else. We need our businesses to thrive, and this is just more money in everyone's pocket.
Thank you. Andrew Campbell.
I'm Andrew Campbell, and I'm a cannabis consultant that primarily deals with veterans. I just want to say that a no vote against this really hurts the veterans. It takes an average of 10 years before a veteran decides to get help with his mental issues. And I've seen firsthand the effects that marijuana can have for veterans, but also the effects it takes to even make a phone call to set up a doctor's appointment. And then the day comes, and they back out of going to see the doctor because they're nerve-wracked to go in. And now, the way it is right now, we require $400 a year and multiple doctor visits just to see if it's a viable option for a veteran to use marijuana to relieve their, whatever it is, whether it's pain or anxiety or PTSD. I think that's offensive almost, after what these guys and gals have been through, to require that versus when the option is an easy open storefront that we already have in place. You know, I can see my best friend sleep at night, which is, it's monumental that's even an option for him. You know, and something they've touched on is the job opportunities. You know, if we create 100 jobs for citizens of Lincoln City, that's an increase of 1.25%. And when our unemployment rate is 7.5% with a job growth rate of negative 0.82%, I don't see how we're not using everything possible to support our community. You know, if you look at Washington and Colorado, crime rates have decreased dramatically, 5 to 10%, 5% in Washington on violent crimes, 10% on common crimes. I'm not seeing the downside of this other than personal opinions. I'm just asking you to set your personal opinions aside and give us the chance to make this a profitable system for the city. I mean, everybody here that showed up tonight wants what's best for our community. I just don't see what the downside is to passing this. I just want to uphold the will of the voters. Like everybody said, they spoke their piece, they voted very clearly, and I think a vote against early recreational sales of marijuana is very clearly a vote against our veterans, even if it is indirect. I don't think limiting their access to this is in any way beneficial. So, anyways, that's it. Thank you.
And Lopez? Oh, that's all right. Oh, that looks like an N there. I'm sorry about that.
I've been called plenty of other names. So.
Ari, I apologize.
My name is Ari Lopez. I've only been here for about 1.5 years. We are involved with all the cannabis that is going on. I guess everyone else has pretty much nailed it. My only concern is we would be making more work for the officers instead of less, and I don't see how that's a benefit. If, like she said, if there's going to be drug dealing in all the parking lots and stuff like that, that means it's taking away from our officers on the real crimes that are going on or the real drug problems in the city. So I just think that maybe you guys could set personal differences aside and maybe, give a vote for us. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Christopher Ships.
Hello. Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I'm the owner and PRF of Lincoln City Collective, which is in Taft. I just want to address a couple of the things that have come up and reiterate a few things just quickly. First of all, the tax revenue structure for this town. It looks like it'll be greatly appreciated to get money coming in to do your roads and infrastructure build out. If you look at, there's 5 dispensaries in town right now. If every single one of those dispensaries does $100,000, your revenue would be, over $100,000 for your roads and your infrastructure. And we would all hope that we would do that amount of money. We can't guarantee that as this is business and we're all trying to survive. But we are, speaking of that, we're going into the winter. And as we know, less tourists, less people come through the town. There's less things here to draw those people into town. And especially as reiterating what someone else has said, the people that have come in to the business, that walk in with their license out, are from other states. And if you look at my demographic studies of my people that have actually come in and purchased, which are under the medical program, not the ones that I send away. But those are not the quote-unquote stoners that you all are thinking are putting people to be. They're actually less than 1% is under the age of 28 years old. So that means they're people that are adults that are coming in the store to get real medication. So the one thing I wanted to touch on was the tax revenue. It's there, it's available, and you could definitely, on your council, make sure that revenue went exactly to roads and infrastructure. And it could be done immediately rather than in 6 months. Secondarily, It's the winter time coming up, and you're asking small business owners to hold up their staff through the winter. And I know everybody has a problem with that anyway. This would really help us out and allow us to hire more people rather than to lay people off. And I thank you for your time and consideration. The third point, which I forgot to mention originally, was that we have a seed-to-sale system. I know you had some concern about tracking inventory. Every single gram that comes into the store has to be tracked, has to be accounted for, and has to be tracked. As I said earlier, has to be tested. The state knows all this. They're privy to all of our records. They're privy to any of the videotape on the video cameras. And to reiterate what they said about their dispensary, I have so many cameras, more than I would say most banks have. So we're hoping to protect our clients as much as possible. We'd like to work with the council, work with the police in town. No one's come forward to me to say, hey, we'd like to work with you. What would be a good plan to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody's protected? I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time again.
Thank you. His name was Christopher Shipps. S-H-I-P-P-S, yeah. Catherine Shoemaker? Okay. Jim Hoover. Oh, wait a minute, Jim, you're on a different subject, are you not? Okay. I don't have anyone else signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Please come forward.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Marcia Favaloro. I've written to each of you about things going on with cannabis. I'm interested only in the fact that this is medicine we can make in our yards. I think the benefit for Lincoln City, being a town of 8,000 where nearly 20% of our population is over 65, and the median age of the remaining population is nearly 50. That's a median age. I would like to find us making medicine in our backyards, and we can do this. We have topicals that we can use. They make plants out of our yard that have no psychoactive ingredients. We can only get those plants at our local dispensaries. So I, too, would encourage you, please. This ban shuts us down from development. We have a group that are starting to test now on products. There's been no clinical testing of any cannabis products because it's been illegal. We're standing at a forefront that has never been seen before. I was at Berkeley in '69. I've been at a few forefronts. This is very exciting. Very exciting. I am not a smoker. I consider that a canna don't. But there are things with cannabis that you can do for health. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Carrie Ewan, and I came here to talk to you about affordable housing. But since I am here, I would like to say that I'm glad I'm here tonight because as a school teacher and a mother, I think that there's just no reason not to pass it because all the teenagers, they're buying it anyway. And do you want these kids or your grandkids to be inhaling pesticides and all these other things? Don't even let them have it. They can't, if all the adults are buying it, and like I said, I came here to talk about affordable housing. However, if all the grown-ups are buying it, the black market will be gone and the kids won't be able to get it. So, seriously? Okay, so when it's time to talk about affordable housing, I'm Carrie Ewan and I want to help with that. But don't even be ridiculous. I'm glad I came on this night. I didn't even mean to, but so let's get on with it. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. I think we need council discussion.
Well, I'll start off. The last time we had this discussion, when we talked about this, I had some real concerns that the rules were kind of fuzzy-wuzzy from the state of Oregon. Since that time, I have done some more research and did some more digging into the whole thing. And I'm satisfied that the state has enough things in place that that my decision then, which was negative, is now positive. I support the early sale based on what I have been able to glean from information from the state and elsewhere. I agree. If a number of cities, as a matter of fact, the city of Salem is debating this tonight as well. So it's not been a thing that a lot of cities. Did it pass there today? Okay, so the audience is telling me that they've now passed it. I just think that I think our people said it well. Is Lincoln County was well in favor of this. My only trepidation was that I thought the rules were a little too loose and goosey. I've since learned that I was incorrect, that those rules are tight enough, and I'm satisfied with it. So I'm in favor of allowing the early marijuana sale in dispensaries.
Other comments? Mr. Ward?
I'll go ahead and go. My personal opinion is that alcohol and as a drug, and any drug, I think overall is not good for society, and that's my opinion. I too was at Berkeley in 1969, and back then this day would have been a dream come true. But having said that, I think you make a very good case, and I'm not loving seeing it, but the voters were very clear, and there is much benefit, but there is some risk and some loss, and I would hope that that Mr. Ships, that the police would work with you, and working together. Just because you don't like the meal doesn't mean you have to swallow it. And so, again, I would be for it very cautiously, but yes.
Other comments?
Mr. President.
Ms. Walke?
At our last meeting in September, we heard some very valid points, but we didn't have any input from the dispensaries, and it was my impression from talking to people that the dispensaries did not want to sell both medical and recreational. That's not what I'm hearing tonight. I still don't know if the tax collection system is in place. Guess we'll find out. I do hope that this eliminates the black market. I don't know that that's really possible, but the voters did vote to legalize it. I'd be supportive of sales.
Mr. Noriakis, any comments?
Yes, my vote is not going to be affected by my personal opinion. I wish the Oregon Liquor Control Commission had licensed recreational sales in a dispensary, but they haven't. Measure 91 was approved by the voters to legalize marijuana. Senate Bill 460 was not approved by the voters. And it's an unfinished law since the rules have not been adopted to implement Section 2 of SB 460. As I say, I wish that the licensing process has been completed, but it has not. The chief of police has spoken to us and recommended that we not pass this. One of the reasons he listed, and I concur with, he contends to allow medical marijuana dispensaries to sell limited amounts of marijuana is in direct conflict, not only with the marijuana dispensary itself, but with all of the rules and regulations set forth by the Oregon Health Authority to supply the dispensary. I believe that's true.
Please. Are you through there, Chester?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not through.
We're through with the comment now. Ma'am?
I have a copy of Senate Bill 460 here. Section 2, number 4, the authority shall adopt rules to implement this section. Those rules have not been adopted yet. They're in draft form. They've not been adopted. Yes, passage of this ordinance will most likely direct money away from Lincoln City. I'm not happy about that. And the city will lose potential tax dollars until retail outlets open in late 2016. I'm not happy about that either. Passage of this ordinance will not create a huge black market for marijuana, as that market already exists. I don't think it will be eliminated either with recreational sales in dispensaries or anywhere else. A draft of the OLCC rules and regulations do not give our chief of police anything to work with, and I have no intention of banning sales when the full laws are in place. So I'm not attempting to set any kind of a precedent. I'm not voting to ban legalized marijuana. I'm voting to ban the sale of recreational marijuana by medical marijuana dispensaries. I will support the sale of recreational marijuana when the OLCC licenses the retail sales outlets. The buck stops at the chief's desk when it comes to controlling the sale of recreational marijuana and enforcing the law. Without clear and unambiguous guidelines, he cannot do the job we hired him to do. If the OLCC, in fact, confirms the rules and regulations regarding the sale, then we as a council can consider, I hope, rescinding the current ordinance and allowing sales to occur. Thank you.
Other comments? I have a couple. One of my concerns is the handling of the money. Currently, the banks cannot accept money from marijuana dispensaries by law, and in amounts over $10,000, they cannot. So my concern is, how is that going to be, how does that affect the dispensaries? I see that as a problem. I see that probably, in fact, one person made a comment to me that, well, they've already got it figured out, and that is that they'll go out of the country or out of the state. They already have sources lined up. Now, that came from, please. This is a public meeting, and we want to treat it like a public meeting, so please, let's hold down the... Ma'am, people, please. There's a certain protocol that takes place in a public meeting, and if you do not want to follow the protocol, we'll ask you to leave. That's fine. I'm not through with my comments yet. They had their time to talk when we had public comment. We're not going to reopen it. We're following the agenda. Please, I'll ask the chief to escort you out if you continue. I'm worried a little bit about how the process will work if there's to be tax collection. Who audits the books? How is that handled? How does the city handle that? We don't have a process in place. I also worried a little bit about the fact that we have a federal law in effect and that it's in conflict with Oregon's law and other laws on marijuana. And lastly, I have a comment here from KEPR CBS affiliate in Pasco, Washington. This comes on a flyer that came out called Auto Matters. Here's a quote. A recent study from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission shows marijuana involvement has increased by 48% in the amount of deadly crashes from 2013 to 2014. Now, I don't know where they got that statistic, but I'm sure that commission didn't just make that up. And so that's a concern. Now, having said that, I've heard everything you've said this evening, and I'm in sympathy because I understand the situation. I agree with Mr. Noriakis in that I wish that the law was in place and all the rules and regs were in place, which they are not. My feeling is that I would like to see us, if we can, postpone it until such time as the laws and regs are in place and then go forward with that. That's my bit. Anything else? Do we?
I have a legal question of our counsel. If you may. Mr. Apicello, if we do not pass this ordinance this evening, does it automatically allow the dispensaries to begin selling recreational marijuana as of October 1st, or do we have to do a specific ordinance for that?
The law specifically allows you to prohibit sales. This ordinance was written for you to enact if you deem fit. If you take the option 3, I think in the memo, it says take no action. The sales would become possible on October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Can anyone answer my question about tax collection and how that's supposed to happen?
Looking at our ordinance that we adopted imposing a 10% tax, I would argue that it applies to the interim sales. Reading the League of Oregon Cities manual on marijuana, they make some general statements about how we're preempted. So I'd say I'd want to look into it before we start collecting the tax. I do not know if the Finance Department has geared up to do this. Obviously, the early sales were kind of just thrown out there. You do have time at your next meeting if you wanted to postpone the tax collection to allow for setup, if in fact that's what you wanted to do.
Any other questions or discussions? Mr. Apicello, do we proceed then with the reading of the ordinance, or what?
Again, you have the option to adopt the ordinance, to declare an emergency and do the first and second reading, or you have the option to take no action.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council?
I would move that we take no action.
I second it.
Discussion?
So if we take no action, that means they may sell it.
Sales can start on October 1.
I guess I have one other question. I only heard 2 dispensaries represented here. Okay. Thank you, that's fine. If a dispensary does not want to sell recreational, can they opt out? I want our city attorney to answer the question.
I don't think they can be forced to do it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mr. Ward?
To our attorney. Sorry. Now, currently, are we taxing medical marijuana?
No, our ordinance does not provide for taxing medical marijuana.
Okay. So if someone has a medical card, it will be less expensive for them to buy it than?
Yes.
Is it a great deal difference?
There's a 10% tax in our ordinance.
Okay. So 10% different. Okay.
One more question. If we take no action tonight, then sales begin October 1. Are we still capable of passing an ordinance like the one we've proposed for this evening at a later date?
I don't want to say absolutely not. I just say it would be more defensible to enact the ban before the effective date than to attempt to do it later.
And if we acted the ban before the effective date but later on decided to cancel it, we could do that?
I think that would be the more effective way to proceed.
Okay. Okay. Let's see, we have a motion on the floor.
Motion and a second.
We do have a motion on. Any other discussion?
No action.
Okay, then let's have a roll call, please.
No.
I'm sorry, you can't now. You're out of order.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Norikis?
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. Oh, sales begin October 1. I hope that's the last time I hear clapping tonight. Okay, we're on to, let's see, an ordinance under H4 at this point. This is an ordinance, second reading, amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.16, Civil Infractions, and Chapter 1.20, Ordinance Enforcement, to consolidate and update code enforcement chapters and make changes consistent with Lincoln City Municipal Code Chapter 9.04, amending violation classifications to be consistent with state law, amending Chapter 1.04 to change the default violation from Class A to a Class B, amending the code to change civil infraction to violation consistent with current terminology.
Your Honor, this is ordinance 2015-10, which you had the first reading on August 24th. I drafted some changes, some that were discussed at the first meeting, and then I had some recommendations from the police chief. I put it into a council communication format with a marked up ordinance. Unfortunately, it did not make it into the electronic packet, so you did not receive it. The public did not see it. At this meeting, we would normally conduct the second reading, and I would have to read the changes out loud. However, and I can still do that. However, if you wish to postpone this item because the electronic packet did not include the revisions to the ordinance and the council communication, I have no objection to postponement to September 28th, I believe is your next meeting. So that would be a motion to continue second reading to September 28th. If you want to allow for written comment, you had provided till noon on September 9th for people to comment on the ordinance. No one submitted written comments. I understand that there's at least one person who wants to speak about it, but we usually provide for commenting on ordinance in a written format. It's more meaningful to have them point out exactly what their objections are. So if you would like, I will proceed with the reading, and you can adopt the ordinance this evening, or you can postpone it to September 28th.
We have someone here who would like to comment on that. Should we allow that at this point?
Again, this is not the typical public hearing process for that, so, and again, the ordinance that before you is, in the electronic packet is not the one that I provided.
We had time at the beginning of the meeting for public comment.
Yes.
Mr. President.
There was no...
Okay. Mr. President?
Yes.
I would concur with Mr. Apichel's recommendation to postpone this so that the electronic form, the changes can go onto the web page so that if people have a chance to see what those changes are, and then if they would like to make some written comments, they would be able to prior, so that you would have those coming into a meeting.
Okay. I have a change that should take place in there. You need to strike on page 4. That first paragraph is down about 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines down. It says a city enforcement officer, and then the strikeout was official, and then right behind is city official. That doesn't really follow in the sentence.
You're correct. It's just supposed to say a city enforcement officer is expressly authorized. The word city official keeps creeping back in there. I don't know what it is. Okay. That's the second time it is.
Okay.
It's like a...
Mr. President?
So I'm confused. Do we read it the second time and then vote to send delay it, or?
No, if you would like to continue, I'd just recommend we just go ahead and continue the second reading to September 28th, and at that time, I will read the changes. However, the electronic packet will include the changes that have been recommended by the police chief and the changes that one of you had recommended at the last meeting, which I actually had made.
Okay. Mr.
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion?
Could I ask, is there going to be an opportunity for people to submit written comments, let's say the Wednesday before the 28th meeting, whatever that is?
I would include that in my motion.
Noon on Wednesday.
Second. Approved.
Okay. Discussion? Did you have a question that you wanted to ask, or you wanted to make a motion? Yeah. You got preempted.
So be it.
Okay, there's no, let's have a roll call on that, please.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
And Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that takes us down to resolutions. Item 7, I-7 is Resolution 2015-25, a resolution declaring Exhibit A, bucket truck surplus property, providing for exemption of the Lincoln County Municipal Code, Chapter 2.05, Public Contracts, Competitive Bid Procedures, and approving disposal by, I'm losing my voice, by auction.
Mr. President.
Is there a motion?
Mr. President, it's
yes.
Probably, I know that there had been some questions regarding this. It's probably best to take items 7 and 8 together because the one is dependent upon the other. Item 7 is to auction off a vehicle, and item 8 is to replace that vehicle. If you decide not to auction it off, then there, of course, there's no reason to proceed forward. I have asked Lila Bradley and Willis Degenstein to take a few moments and just talk a little bit about the vehicles and answer any questions if you're okay with that.
Oh, sure. Come on up.
Evening. I'm Lila Bradley, the Public Works Director.
I'm Willis Degenstein, the City Mechanic.
And I do have a memo in your packet. This is a purchase for a street department bucket truck. And so it's our lift truck that we use for banners and lighting. And a little history on the truck for the audience out there. The truck was purchased in 1998 for $50,646. The total cost of ownership to date is $117,364, And then the surplus resale value is estimated at $10,000. So this truck is used several times a week for street lighting. We do a lot of limbing and road signs and banners. We wash windows. We use it for painting buildings. And it also is required doing anything higher than a step ladder. And so there are several lights, mostly in the parking lots, that are too short to reach. So our existing truck, I believe, is 28-foot reach. The new one would be 37. And it's prone to breakdowns, as you can see from the repair list that we have attached. The equipment requires an annual certification inspection. At the at the last inspection was recommended that the man bucket be replaced, and by the next inspection, because it was cracked. I'll let Willis talk about the miles on this.
Currently, the truck has 120,000 miles on it, and 2,500 hours on the boom. The boom hours only accumulate when it is being operated. If you take the hours and you multiply it by 60 to gain the actual mileage that would have been on the engine, this truck has 270,000 miles on that engine. It has multiple engine oil leaks that would require pulling the engine out to repair, and we've chosen at this point to just keep adding the oil.
Okay, and so we did budget, the numbers that we had in your memo, we went from 2006 to 2014, and that was $30,000, 788 total of repairs that we've been doing on the truck for the last few years. And so the budget amount was $95,000. With our trade-in, the total amount after trade-in would be $90,486. And that would be approximate depending on what we can sell it for. And so we're recommending the purchase of the new bucket truck in the amount of $100,486. We have included the resolution, which we talked about earlier, for the 1998 existing bucket truck to surplus that.
What do you anticipate you might get on trade-in?
We're anticipating $8,000 to $10,000. And Willis has already researched that trade-in value.
And that would be
surplus value.
A surplus value. I talked to the dealer that we want to buy the new truck from, and they do not want the old truck. They have too many of them in stock already, and they have to certify them to sell them, and it's costing them a fortune to recertify these old trucks, so they do not want it. They told us we could make more money, and it'd be more cost-effective to us to surplus it and sell it on our own.
Makes good sense.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Are you selling it, trading it in, or auctioning it?
We would sell it on a public surplus site where it would be open to bid to the public all over the United States.
Okay. So I just had a couple. I kind of looked into it a little bit because I've got a 1999 Chevrolet, same car or truck you have, and I've got almost 300,000 on mine. So, and mine runs great, works great. It's starting to leak oil too. But, so I asked Mr. Chandler if I could go down, and he said, "Why don't you go down and look at theirs?" And I said, "Okay." And you're right, it's worn out. Yours is very worn out. And I couldn't find the crack in the bucket, however, as much as I tried. I had some questions. How come all the there's no price associated with the items on here? Normally, when I look at a window sticker, it'll have air conditioning, so much money. You know, every time you add on an accessory, there's a price. But I noticed there's a heading for price, but there's no prices for each accessory there.
We have the specs included here. The vendor, when he gave me the specs, air conditioning is a standard feature on the vehicle, and we went off of a spec sheet on an NADA contract that the power company uses. I've checked these vehicles. the specifications that the power company uses and deleted a lot of things that we don't need as a city, like tubes for the grounding sticks, the extra bins, all kinds of other features to knock the price down as close as we could get it to our budget that we need. I also went with the vehicles that the bucket trucks that the power company uses, because when those guys use those trucks, they use them hard. They've got to get to a power line and they don't care what's in the way. And these trucks have held up extremely well compared to the current truck that we have that has its problems. Basically, too, because it's a different design of boom on the truck.
So I noticed that you have like a snowplow package.
The snowplow package options for heavier front suspension on it, because we're specifying without outriggers. So it has a suspension system that hangs over the frame under the service body to stabilize the rear differential and spring package. And the snowplow package puts heavier springs and front suspension on the front end to allow that to happen as well.
So are we going to use it to plow snow?
No, it's just the suspension package is called the snowplow package.
Okay.
So that you could put a snowplow on the front and it would hold it if you needed to. But it's just for the added suspension to have the truck without outriggers.
And I know there's cruise control.
That's a standard feature on the truck.
Okay, no getting asked that one. All right. And lastly, did we get any other bids for this? Or second to last? I got one more after this.
I got another bid from VersaLift from Pacific Truck Colors in Portland.
Uh-huh.
But the VersaLift truck has a different type of boom. The reason we wanted to go with Altec is because it does not have the extension on it like ours currently has. When it extends out, the hydraulic hoses and electric lines have to curl up in the boom. They curl up on what's called a cat track. The new truck does not have the cat track. It has an articulated boom that gets the height and movement out of what you need. So this cat track in our current truck is broken twice. When it goes back in, it pinches all the wiring and the hydraulic hoses. And our fear with that is if it breaks a third time, each time we've had to replace the hoses, but you take a risk of blowing a hydraulic hose, which would cause the bucket to crash to the ground, or short out the electrical wiring, which would turn it into a spin or raise or lower without control.
Yeah, I guess my last question is have you thought, we always buy used at home, you know. If we can get something a year old, you save 30% on depreciation. Have we considered buying these used?
In the past, we've bought used equipment for the city, and we've discovered that it takes a fortune to maintain it and keep it up. For example, we bought a used brusher tractor, and we had to put $13,000 into it to make it work proper. Then the boom finally fell off of it. We had to get a new boom for it. It was $30,000. Put that on, found out the three-point hitch didn't work that we put it on. That was around $8,000 to fix that. Fixed that, and then the head gasket blew. That was $5,000 to fix that. We've discovered it's far better off just to buy new and not have to worry about what somebody else has damaged.
Okay. And then I noticed that it didn't have four-wheel drive.
No, they're basically just on the city streets. The power company has four-wheel drive because they go off-road to the power poles, but we're basically on city streets and don't need four-wheel drive to access what we need to.
Okay. I didn't mean to pick on you. I just was doing my homework. Thanks.
Other questions? I guess not. We thank you for coming forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there a
Thank you,
motion?
Lila. Thank you, Lila. Thank you, Willis.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I move that we direct staff to purchase a new bucket truck in the amount of $100,486 and to declare the 1998 bucket truck surplus.
That would include passing the resolution then, is that correct?
No, it'd have to be two separate things.
You want to do two separate items? Okay. All right, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
It'd be kind
Yes,
of,
Kip?
I just would feel more comfortable if the dealer would itemize everything that charging for it. Maybe, when I competitively buy a car, it's a few occasions I bought new, I would go from dealer to dealer comparing accessories, so I knew I had the same truck or car, and that's how I knew whether or not I was getting the best deal. I'd like to have seen that process.
I just would comment on that. I don't think there are that many dealers out there that actually have that bucket truck available.
There are, at least on the internet. There seem to be quite a few of them.
I guess on the internet, but I'm thinking of going to the dealer and getting a price.
Yeah. I had my say out. How it comes out, it's okay by me.
Any other questions? There's a motion on the floor to purchase the bucket truck. Let's see. Let's have a roll call, please.
The motion is to purchase the bucket truck for $100,486, correct?
Correct.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And Sprague?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now let's treat the ordinance 2015-25, which is the sale of the existing bucket truck surplus.
Declaring it surplus.
Pardon me? That's what I said. What did I say it was? Ordinance? Oh, pardon me. I meant to say resolution. I was looking right at it.
I would move that we accept or adopt Resolution 2015-25, declaring Exhibit A of the bucket truck surplus property, providing for exemption from Lincoln City Municipal Code, Chapter 2.05, Public Contracts, Competitive Bid Procedures, and approving disposal by auction.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
And Walke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now that puts us into the middle of the special order of business. We have a lease, the Oregon Northwest Workforce Investment Board lease. Mr. Chandler?
Yes. This organization, the Oregon Northwest Workforce Investment Board, has requested a month-to-month no-rent lease in our space down at the bottom of this building. Can you hear me okay?
That's better. That's
down
better.
at the bottom. Thank you. At the bottom of this building, we do have space for that, and this is not an atypical type of request. In the past, the city, when the PCB went upstairs, the city determined that it would use that space as a business incubator in order for it to be able to create jobs that would be available in our community. We do have one organization where we have this same type of a lease where it's a no-rent lease, and then they've been able to provide employment. This group has been chartered by the state to work with 5 counties in economic development efforts of training and helping people in their employment. And so I'm bringing forward this request to you tonight.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
How long has that space been vacant?
Since I believe it's been since the VCB went upstairs.
That's what I thought, too.
I think we had one in there, didn't we? We had one business in there for a while, and then they left.
Kind of a quasi-business.
Yeah.
I have no problem with this. Certainly, Workforce Investment Board sounds like it might be something that could use in this community, so I have no issues with it.
Any other comments? Mr. Norikis?
Mr. Chandler, on the letter from, I think his name is Tony, who's the executive director.
Tony Erickson.
In the 5th paragraph, last sentence, he refers to readiness and training to youth, dislocated workers, and incumbent workforce members of the community. What is an incumbent workforce member?
As I understand, those would be people we would consider to be underemployed. They are employed, but they're employed below their skill level.
Okay. And it sounds as though, well, he states that they're just beginning to build the organization.
They were just, I guess it's rechartered by the state this past summer.
Right. So there's really no track record of
not that I've
success rate or...
No, not that I've been able to find.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I would entertain a motion to go forward.
What, is it a motion to allow the city manager to go to sign a lease agreement?
Yes.
Yes. I would so move.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion? Mr. Apichello.
Just under the city code, the city manager is delegated authority to enter into standard leases, and we kind of have a standard form, and he must approve a written order, and you've delegated that authority to him.
So we don't have to have this motion?
Well, no, I think the reason why we're here is because it was a no monetary lease. That's why we're here.
That's right. That's right. When this was brought to when this was brought before me, I was aware of the policy that had been established by a previous council. I wanted to reaffirm that that was the policy you wanted to continue to operate under.
Okay. Can we do a voice vote? Has to be a roll call. Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
May I have a question before we do that?
Sure.
Mr. Chandler, on your memo, on the last page, fourth paragraph, as the letter mentions, they would accommodate United Way's lease of the front office. Accommodate it in what way?
As I understand that, when Mr. Twigg and I were looking at that, I said that we would not be, there would not be conflicts with United Way as we divvy up the space.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
And Ward?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the last order of business item is the property purchase, the Elks Lodge.
Mr. President, on this matter, I have recused myself in the past, and I will recuse myself again from this discussion.
I will declare that I was...
due to ethical and I think I would have an ethical and actual conflict.
I'm an Elks member, but I don't find that as a conflict of interest in this.
Well, just me.
I'm a member of the Newport Lodge now.
Just that, for the record, membership, even on a board of a not-for-profit organization, social, any kind of, is not an actual conflict of interest, although you can recuse yourself if you feel that you are not impartial in the matter.
Okay. Any other conflicts or biases? Hearing none. I'm not quite sure where we go with this right now. Do we just go ahead and decide to make a motion to have the city manager make an offer?
Mr. President, I move to instruct the city manager to make an offer for the purchase of the Elks Building up to and not to exceed the fiscal year budgeted. No. For the purchase of the Elks Building for the price we have discussed.
Is there a second?
May I modify that motion, ma'am? I would move that we instruct the city manager to make an offer for the purchase of the Elks Building up to and not to exceed the fiscal year budgeted amount.
Is there a second?
As recommended by the city manager.
Okay, up to and not to exceed. Okay,
So you second that, okay. Any discussion?
Discussion, please.
Please.
Mr. Apicello, since this is a nonprofit organization, they have not, I presume they have not been paying property taxes on this location?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you. So if the city were to purchase this, we would not be taking it off the tax rolls?
That's correct.
That's right.
Thank you.
Discussion?
I have discussion.
Sure.
I think the amount that we're in question exceeds the value of the property, and I would not be for it. I just think it needs some more time, and come back at it later. If I were looking to buy it for myself, I would not make any offer at this point.
Okay. Other discussion? Let's have a roll call, please.
Who was the second on that?
Ms. Walke.
And who was the original motion?
Mr. Nuriakis.
Thank you. Norikis?
No.
Ryan?
Refused.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
yes.
Ward?
No.
Motion fails.
I'm trying to think of how we can resolve this. There's kind of a time crunch involved in this thing.
I don't really think you have an option to resolve it at this meeting. I think the opposite motion would probably result in the same vote. So you may want to just wait until the next meeting if the city manager wants to ask the question again when you have additional members present.
Okay. All right. We're on to city manager, city attorney reports. Mr. Chandler?
Just a couple of dates. Remind you of just a few things. On Friday, October 2nd, from 3 to 5 p.m., there will be a workshop for people of all ages and abilities to work in helping with the hands-on modeling and building process for the city's planning and urban design. We also have continued Community Design Week for the Nelscott Gap community plan that will be from September 30th through Saturday, October 3rd. I would encourage people to look to the website for those dates. And I do believe that's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. Mr. Apicello, anything? That brings us to additional comments from citizens present. Ms. Gruber, I presume.
Once again, I'm Sandy Gruber, Lincoln City, representing the Lincoln City 50th Celebration Committee. Probably our biggest weekend coming up. We have a parade that is going to be quite the celebration for ourselves, us celebrating us. And I really would like to invite everyone to come and line the streets of Highway 101 and join us in this party. The parade will be on the east half of Highway 101 between the Cultural Center and the Community Center. Road detour cones and barricades will start going up around 7 o'clock in the morning, and the actual detours will begin right around 8 to 8:30 in the morning. So citizens who are having to drive through that area to head out of town, I would highly suggest that you take East Devils Lake Road, just to be a quicker route out for you and not have to worry about the detours. Everyone else, show up early. There are some businesses that are opening at 8 o'clock in the morning, so if you arrive, set your chairs down where you want them and then go shopping a little bit or check out what's going on. And just be proud of where you live and join us in this once in a very long time parade. And then stay a little longer, walk down the street to 22nd Street and join us for a community picnic that'll follow the parade. Free hot dogs, we've got music, we've got lots of games going on. We'll have some farmers market people there to have their wares out there so you get a flavor of what the farmers market is about. And we just want everyone to be there, and don't be angry at us. This is once every 20 or 30 years we have a parade, so just hold your breath. It'll go great. We'll have a good time watching our kids march down the street and some of ourselves. So truly want everyone to come and join in this event. There have been a lot of people working on this parade. We'd love it to be a complete success.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Question, please. Staging at the Cultural Center will occur at what time for the participants?
Participants can begin showing up at 7 a.m. Judging of the entrance will be at 9 a.m. We certainly don't want a backlog of people backed up onto 101 trying to get into the Cultural Center. So we do ask that entrants come in on Northeast 6th Drive and around the north side of the Cultural Center. And there will be a hospitality room inside the Cultural Center, so you can go in there and get some sliced oranges and whatever that's in there, and hang out and meet your fellow participants.
And the parade will start at what time?
The parade starts at 10 a.m., and it will take as long as it takes. I think we have around 75 entrants right now, and a couple of latecomers we know their entries are in the mail, so we're not quite sure that number. And I do want to mention that Channel 2 did a piece on this parade, which I thought was fabulous, especially since the next day we got calls from 5 different people named Lincoln who said, hey, we're coming over. We're going to be in your parade. So I'm kind of excited that people want to join us in celebrating the name Lincoln, so it'll be terrific fun.
And the judging will occur at the Cultural Center?
At the Cultural Center, 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all.
And one of those, I don't want to say people, named Lincoln happens to be a dog.
One of those people happens to be a dog,
yes.
Absolutely. And we will have an Abraham Lincoln on the radio after the 11 o'clock news Friday morning, chatting with Keith Altimer. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Heather Desart. I am the new executive director for the Oregon Northwest Workforce Investment Board. Just wanted to come up and introduce myself. I was here to answer questions, but they seemed to be answered. I want to thank you for your consideration of space for us. We are a brand new Workforce Investment Board, but there are workforce development boards all over the country. So the track record has yet to be determined here, but the office is located in Lincoln City. We've got Columbia, Clatsop, Tillamook, Lincoln, and Benton counties are your local area, and our office will be here, and so I will be seeing you around town. I just moved here 3 weeks ago today, so I want to say hi and thank you for your consideration of space tonight.
Thank you, and welcome to Lincoln City.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoover.
Jim Hoover, 3150 East Devils Lake Road. I'm a property owner, a business owner in Lincoln City. Councilman Sprague, members of the City Council, I was a little miffed earlier when I found out that I had missed the public comment period on your item concerning the changes on ordinance number 2015-10, which is by title, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.16, Civil Infractions, and Chapter 1.20, Ordinance Enforcement, yada, 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 yada. And then I found out that the time I put in this week in studying this ordinance and talking to people about this ordinance was really for naught, because the city staff had changes to the ordinance that weren't present on the website, so I really wasted about 3 or 4 hours of time that my wife and my clients and my granddaughter and my children would really like to have. What I'm really speaking to here is what these situations look like from our side of the venue, what it looks like from your side of the venue. Councilman Sprague, you made a comment tonight to a whole bunch of people that I've never seen at a city council meeting, that if you want to say something but it's already been said, I don't want to hear it. And that weren't really the words you said, but it was pretty close. And I think if we're in the process or the purpose of getting people involved in government instead of discouraging people to be involved in government, that when somebody shows up at a city council meeting, whether they're saying the exact same thing that somebody else is saying or not, we should applaud them for taking the time. We should applaud them for getting past their comfort zone, writing their name on a piece of paper, showing up at a meeting and speaking about something that they want to speak. And I'm personally offended when people show up and they're told, if we've already heard it, we don't want to hear it again, as if they're saying it again doesn't have some validity. And maybe it doesn't, because maybe you already had your mind made up. You know, I just listened to this whole thing on the Elks thing, and, you know, I copied off your executive session agenda tonight. And just for the people watching on TV that still might be watching on TV, you know, it's really interesting when you look at these executive sessions, because it says, you know, accessory use enforcement, city insurance services, Chamber of Commerce property. And I don't think people realize how many things get talked about in these executive sessions, but I can only imagine, because I hear more questions about the purchasing of a lift truck come from the council on a $100,000 item than I hear questions come from the council on, you know, whether it's prudent for us to buy a piece of property. And while I respect Mr. Noriakis's or Councilman Noriakis's question, is this already on the tax rolls and will we be reducing the tax rolls? The other side of that coin is if it's purchased by a private individual, it goes on the tax rolls and creates money for the city, as if somehow, you know, by taking another piece of property and just consuming it into the city's inventory of property. But I haven't heard discussion about, you know, a lot of the things that I would think would be really pertinent about it. And yes, I hear all kinds of discussions about a lift truck. So I can only imagine that these go on in executive sessions under the guise of purchasing property, which I think was intended to be discussing the purchase price on a piece of property or discussing whether or not we're going to buy a piece of property. But the general public still deserves to hear a conversation of why their elected leaders, their representatives from different wards, think it's prudent to buy a piece of property at all or use that money for something else, or why this piece of property and not some other piece of property. You know, I have so little confidence that this is any more at times than a dog and pony show that I actually brought 4 pieces of reading material tonight. I was going to give you the opportunity to listen to me read Finding Nemo, Best Dad in the Sea, Snuggle Buddies, The Cat in the Hat, or The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. Because at times the general public that shows up and gets told, well, if we've already heard it, we don't want to hear it again, thinks that it's not much good. Doesn't make any difference what I say. They're not listening, and they've already heard it. They don't want to hear me testify, so I might as well get up here sometimes and read a children's story, hoping that my granddaughter is still awake and is going to see her grandpa on TV and say, that's my grandpa reading that children's story to me. And I just want to share with you that it's easy to sit up there and think you were elected and that you get to choose what any 3 or 4 or 5 of you want to do. But you were elected to represent people in your district, and I believe they deserve to hear the discussion, hear the questions. You know, the one I was going to talk about tonight, this whole long description, it's about 10 lines long. It's the ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code. Doesn't mention anything about the additional empowerment of all the city staff or all the department heads to enforce the city code or to go into buildings. What it says is that they can walk up to one of my tenants and say, I'm a city enforcement officer, and I want to come into your building without contacting me, and the only way I'd be contacted is if they denied them or if it was an unoccupied building. I don't hear you guys having discussions about the additional enforcement power of the city. Now, I know the building official's always been able to do that by the state of Oregon if there's a violation or some public safety issue, but the finance officer, she's a department head. The VCB director, they're a department head. Why should they have the ability to come into these buildings that people have? I would encourage you to put the same effort into this ordinance that you put into the lift truck, and not just come in like you did last time with the first and second reading, or come in this time and say, oh, we're going to make a bunch of changes, so we're really sorry, Mr. Hoover, which nobody said. And really start respecting the time and energy that people are putting in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to make a comment? Yes.
This is unusual for me because I usually stay out of it. Paul Christensen of Lincoln City and of the News Guard. In the interest of getting misinformation clarified for the council who make the decisions of the city, for the citizens of Lincoln City, regarding a comment that you spoke on tonight, Councilor Sprague, in the marijuana topic, which, God willing, and the creek don't rise, it's put to bed now for a while. You had brought in some data about how, I believe it was in Washington, rates of fatal car accidents had risen. While that is true, at a recent Lincoln City Chamber of Commerce meeting held on Friday, their lunch forum, a panel of guests from the Lincoln County Marijuana Council, I believe that's what they call it, and I forget their names specifically, but they said while that is true, and this is the important part to note, it's not necessarily correlative data. For example, if I were to go tonight and partake in recreational marijuana, that could possibly stay in my system up to 30 days, even though I might not be under the influence. If I were to go get in a car accident in 2 weeks, it could be said that I was under the influence, even though I probably was not. So it's a little bit different than alcohol-related driving under the influence. And that's what the Marijuana Council is trying to figure out, and I think it's what all of the people in Oregon are trying to figure out now. So just in the interest of passing that along, if you have to face this issue in the future, I just want you to have that information to take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then we are down to announcements by City Council or comments.
I have one announcement.
Okay. Kathy?
A reminder that on October 1st, there is a joint meeting with the Planning Commission at 3 o'clock.
October 1st.
And that's here, right?
And that's for the Nell Scott Gap Plan, yes.
Okay.
What time?
From 3 to 5, City Council chambers.
Okay. Mr. Ryan, any comments?
No.
Okay. Ms. Walke?
Yes, I have a question from that. Mr. Chandler, did you say something about a workshop on Friday, October 2nd, from 3 to 5?
That's a public workshop, I think, isn't it?
Oh. Okay, so that's not something that we need to attend.
Specifically, Wednesday, September 30th is a public workshop in the council chambers. October 1st is the joint session that Mrs. Steele just mentioned. Saturday, October 3rd is a Spanish language planning workshop at the Little Roca restaurant. And then the other two meetings on Saturday, October 3rd, include another public open house at Scott's Plaza on the Nell Scott Strip, and then the Project Advisory Committee meeting will be meeting in the council chambers.
I heard.
And the Community Planning Workshop, October 2nd from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Community Center.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just want to say that after we're a year preparation, this is the week of the Chamber Ambassador Convention. It will start Thursday night with a welcome event at the eventuary. And if people would like to come to the eventuary and welcome our visitors to town, we would love to have you join us. Be 100-plus people, about 100 registrants, and then their families will be here and exploring our town, participating in our parade, and spending money. So I hope we will all welcome them.
Okay, Mr. Marakis?
Yes, please. I'd like to share a few items from Mr. Chandler's weekly report, August 28th. Lincoln County Transit North County route now has posters on the back of both the AM and PM routes that are part of the same pedestrian safety grant campaign as the, quote, show intent signs posted at unsignalized crosswalks in Ocean Lake and elsewhere. The point is to remind or educate people driving that when the traffic ahead of them is slowing or stopping, it could very well be because they are stopping for somebody trying to cross the street. Slow down and prepare to stop. Don't try to speed up and pass them. I'd like to thank Lincoln County Transit for that. Also, we are saving water by now using a tractor with a sweeper head on Northwest 15th Street in order to remove the sand from that area of town that regularly is brought up from the beach by vehicles using the ramp at Northwest 15th Street. I appreciate saving that water, Mr. Chandler. Urban Renewal, on a weekly basis, has several groups of volunteers that have been working towards project goals within the open spaces. Community Services Consortium and North Lincoln County Youth Crew participate in work days every week. This group is comprised of Youth Crew employees who work with the CSC, Community Services Consortium. They are paid through grants that are administered through the Community Services Consortium and Career Tech Charter High School. The crew is committing 2 days a week throughout the summer to efforts in the open spaces. Thank you, Community Services Consortium. Thank you to the youth. Thank you for improving and making our open spaces more accessible. I appreciate it. Also, Bama, Chinook Winds, Cultural Center, Kiwanis, and the VCB are all part of the cooperative venture, which includes a video news release and checkered flags throughout town. And this is in relation to car shows that have been in town. And it's great to see that kind of cooperation with a number of different organizations. Thank you all. In addition to that, this is the last one. This is regarding classes at the Culinary Center. We had 2 tours that stayed overnight in Lincoln City. Visitors from Oklahoma, Kansas, and California. We also had a couple of classes that were conducted, welcoming 23 guests, 16 of whom stayed overnight in Lincoln City. Well done, Culinary Center, and I presume VCB. Thank you again.
Mr. Ward?
Well, since Chester brought it up, we did have a car show in Taft, and it was very successful. Great music provided by the ocean, and we served hot dogs and hamburgers, and we sold 104 hamburgers and hot dogs, and all that money went to the Central Coast Oregon Humane Society for the Beach Bark program. So, go Humane Society. There you go.
I don't have anything tonight. So we are adjourned.
didn't pay